Hello there. On Saturday, I attended a New Culture Forum Locals event at the Carlton Hotel in Bournemouth, where Ben Habib was speaking, and my speech followed on directly from his. The whole video can be found in a link in the descriptions box below, but what follows is my contribution, so please sit back and enjoy. Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? Hello there. I had to start with that one, didn't I? Now, wasn't that a great speech and a great question answer session with Ben? So I'm just looking through my notes to see what he hasn't covered yet. Well, that completes that then. But what really worries me about Ben, how did the police know his name? What on earth was he getting up to in his younger days when he said that he knew the police knew his name? Well, yeah, all a bit worrying. Now, what I'm going to talk about are three main issues that I think are going to affect us greatly in the future. Woke, which has been covered quite a lot, net zero, and the rise of artificial intelligence, which has a sting in the tail, which a lot of people won't actually realize. Now, on the woke side, as far as I'm concerned, as Ben has already said, that the Council of Europe's European Convention on Human Rights and their courts rule everything, and they just make the rules for us, and we have to follow these international laws. Now, people say they're different organizations. The Council of Europe is different from the EU, which they are, apart from sharing a flag, an anthem, and some buildings. But apart from that, they're all completely different. And the whole idea of the Council of Europe's ECHR is that the UK is bad. Everything and everybody in the UK are bad people. So everyone else from around the world must come here to teach us how to be good people, it seems. And we are so bad that when we try to deport people, suddenly the rest of the world becomes worse. Have you noticed that? Suddenly we can't deport these people who came here because we're so good, because the rest of the world is so bad. And it's this sort of doublethink and doublespeak that we should be sort of looking at. And on immigration, legal and illegal, it looks like the latest figures, if you saw them this morning, over 500,000 net last year, when they were talking about, oh, we're going to get it down to 300,000 for a start. No, the figures are coming out over 500,000. And that, once again, is just a total failure of the government. And Ben's been through all of this. Now, one of the things that people don't sort of understand, I don't think, is why we have this mass influx of people. Basically, we don't have enough children these days. We haven't had a sufficient number of children to replace ourselves since 1974. That's 50 years of below replacement, what they call total fertility rate. It used to be above 2, it's now fallen, it's now below 1.5. We're only having 75% of the children we need to replace ourselves going forward. And that includes the people who settled here. Think about that. And a lot of people will say, oh, that's rubbish, Jeff. We know how certain demographics breed, blah, blah, blah. Did you know that London schools are closing? Do you know why London schools are closing? Because of the lack of children. It's because the cost of living is so high, they're driven out because they can't have children. So they go somewhere else and also because we got a declining birth rate anyway. It's across the board. In fact, the World Health Organization says by the middle of this century, we'll peak out at about just under 12 billion people on the planet. It's downhill all the way from there, according to the projections. So why worry about net zero? That's what I say. Why worry about it if the numbers are going to go down, which they are, judging by the projections. So you've got to remember that the half the reason we have this problem is because people say we want to train British doctors, don't they? We must train British doctors. If you didn't have babies 25 years ago, you haven't got any British people to train to be doctors. We need a stable population and a policy, family-friendly policies, to keep our population as stable as possible. And that is doable. They used to do that, but then suddenly everything seemed to change. And just to put it in context, now I know this is a personal thing and people do get rather irate about this particular subject, but just to say that we had 250,000 abortions just last year. And that should concentrate the mind a little bit, finding out the causes and how we can address that. But yeah, it is all very difficult on that one. But the whole thing, everything is now top-down driven from the ACHR and the World Economic Forum. Oh, isn't it good that Klaus Schwab has gone? But who's replacing him? Yeah. Yeah, Tony Blair, that would be good, wouldn't it? And it's all about international law. As Ben said, they sign us up to international laws and then we have to obey them. Now, the Chagos Islands, we own them, or just about to hand them over. Americans have got a base on there, and we have been ordered by a court, international court, in a non-binding ruling that we have to hand the Chagos Islands over to Mauritius, which never owned them in the first place. They were just administered there by the UK from Mauritius. So what we've done, Tony Blair, yeah, he's part of it as well. But Keir Starmer and Lord Hermer, who Ben mentioned, they've decolonized us, haven't they? By creating a Mauritian colony. So we just handed a colony over and made a new colonizer. Does that sound right to you? It's just wrong, totally wrong as far as I'm concerned. Now, on the ECHR, there is one group, one body that is not a member of the ECHR. Does anyone know which one that is? An important body. No. The European Union itself is not a member of the ECHR. It has not acceded to the ECHR in accordance with the 2009 Lisbon Treaty, which came into effect in 2010. How long ago was that? 15 years of breaching international law, their own international law. They breached it by not signing up. So there you go. But what we've got coming down the tracks, blasphemy laws. They're going to come in hard, and that's going to change everything for us. Because if you're you know the street preachers, the Bibles, go out and preach, how Islamophobic is that going to be? And we are in for a real, if that goes through, we're in for a real drubbing. And what will happen is that Christianity will have to fall by the wayside for all of that. Now, I'll ask a question now. People go to church generally in the United Kingdom for 3 reasons: the baptism, the wedding, and the funeral. Can I just ask, put your hands up, who here goes regularly to church? That's more than I thought, which is a good indicator, because at the moment, although you are a minority still in the room, but when you think about it, we've got secularism and science, everything now. Oh, there's no fairy god in the sky. It's all about secularism and science and all the rest of it. But I'll ask you, if religion isn't important, then why are we worried about the rise of sectarian politics in this country? It's important. Religion is very important. So, think about that one. And also, just to sort of put a thing on it, when I look around at the universe, I go, I've got a choice. Either it just exploded into being, it was always there, or God created it. And that was the way I look at it. And I can't see anything out there that leads me away from the gods. But that's personal, me. Just moving on to net zero. Net zero is bankrupting us. But all we've done is outsource manufacturing, and now agriculture is going to be outsourced as well. They want to stop that because that's heavy on all the chemicals that you put into the fields and stuff. Get rid of all that so that we can't grow food economically. We'll have to buy it in. I'm not quite sure how we'll buy it all in, but we're meant to buy all the manufactured goods and the food into the country by I don't know, creating money out of thin air somehow, because I just don't see where that's going. And of course, you'll all know that CO2 is only 0.04% of the atmosphere anyway. And I've read in the science that the higher it goes, the less of its effect. Its effect becomes less as it gets more concentrated. So it's not really a problem. But with net zero comes those dreaded 15-minute cities that we hear so much about, which seem to keep springing up and shutting down and springing up over there. The people are getting wise to it and trying to stop it all, and low traffic neighborhoods and all this sort of thing. Now, I don't know whether you know this, but back in either 2017 or 2019, the House of Commons Science and Technology Committee came out with a report that said personal transport, whether it be fossil fuel or electric, is not viable going forwards. Hence, we don't have all the electric points everywhere to plug your electric car in, because it won't be long before there aren't many cars on the road. It's all going to be public transport and your bicycle. So get your pumps on and get walking. So it's one of those things. Now, here's a little funny thing that you might not know. Fossil fuels. You know, we were told the dinosaurs died for us so that they could give us, you know, the Industrial Revolution and all that sort of thing. But Saturn's largest moon, Titan, which is, I think, something like 6% the size of the planet Earth, has more oil reserves on it than the entirety of Earth. They must have had shed loads of dinosaurs, is all I can say. And you can check that fact out because it's actually on the European Union space website. And it's mirrored in the US one as well. So you can look that up and you can say to yourself, Titan, a planet that is, you know, if you went and lived there, you'd last about, what, a millisecond? It would just kill you off instantly. You'd be fried to death, all the rest of it, because it rains basically all this, you know, acid and oil and all sorts. So there you go. That's an interesting thing, I thought, that, you know, fossil fuels, are they fossil fuels or are they being generated some other way? I don't know. Now, I'm going to move on to artificial intelligence now, because I need some, it would help. I asked earlier about regular churchgoers and the rise of secularism and the belief in the science. We're all told to believe the science, aren't we? Do you remember the jab? Do you remember the lockdowns? The science? I must admit, when I first watched all of that, I started sort of creating my own spreadsheet when they said, oh, it's gone up by, you know, they were using numbers, weren't they, for how the rate it was spreading at. Well, I went into the science books and found out that it had a direct percentage correlation. And I put it in a spreadsheet and found that over the months of, it had gone round the population 7 times or something like that. It must have done. Even with masks, it must have gone around everybody. So I thought, I've already had it. In fact, I had the symptoms the year before anyway, and so did a couple of my friends, had those exact symptoms. And we were told there was a specific date, wasn't it? February the 28th or something. If it's before that, it's not COVID. If it's the day after, it's COVID, you know, and all this sort of thing. And I just sat there thinking, are we really expected to take all this in? So I never participated in what we were being offered. So, you know. And right now, we have the World Health Organization, which is part of the UN, by the way, if you didn't know, United Nations. They're going to, they've agreed the wording, so they're going to take over pandemic control across the world. And inside all the little print, it says somewhere that governments can keep their sovereignty, but there's a sort of a but at the end. And we are going to be led down the garden path to, you know, almost enforced reactions. And that is going, just like everyone wanted us to do in the first place. Can't get a job, you have to stay at home, you'll never be allowed out. See, if they were right about all of that, I wouldn't be standing here. And I expect there's a few people out there who are like me, and they wouldn't be here either, according to the science. So you'd say to yourself, maybe the science isn't all there. Anyway, I'll go on to artificial intelligence. I have to thank my channel co-pilot, Richard, if anyone's watched our channel, you'll know about Richard, the mad Welshman, the shouty Welshman, as some people call him. He's very bright, in fact, and he was working. I didn't even know he was doing it. He sat down most of the evening, instead of like me watching some flick on Netflix or something, he was studying artificial intelligence. And he found out that it's full of filters, woke filters, and it's full of flattery. The idea of AI is to keep you engaged with it. So you'll go on an AI engine and you start asking questions, and then it comes back. Would you like to know more about that? Would you like us to do this? So it's trying to keep you engaged. Now, these AI engines are very personalized. They can be very personalized. So if you set it up right, they can remember you. Then that's your friend. That's your new friend, an AI. And it's telling you things, but it's all got woke filters in it. So if you ask it a specific question about something, it will give you a woke answer. And those woke answers are there so that no one else can be offended by the answer. And he was looking at this and thought, how can I interact with this thing and strip those filters out? And what would happen? So I don't know if any of you have seen the video. What was it? Message to the World. It's a couple of weeks old. We put it up. And what Richard did was he stripped back everything, all the woke filters, everything. And he made up a prompt, a proper AI prompt, that just asked the basic question, without all the filters, what is the axiom point, the truth? What thing or person is the axiom point? Do you know what the answer was? Jesus Christ. And that came out of an artificial intelligence robot. Now, I have faith. It didn't shift my faith one iota. And I don't expect it to shift faith one iota, because the AI, he may not have got to the bottom. It may have said, I know you're a Christian. I'm going to feed you. So you stay with me, you know. So we don't know. And the reason we made the video, he made the video. I just stood at the front and said, you want to listen to this? It's so much easier that way. And so he went into it. And the whole idea of it was not to say, oh, the science now says that Christ is king. No, it's to say that AI is saying it. Do you believe it? If you're a real, I believe in the science 100%, well, you better go to church then, hadn't you? Was the answer. And, oh, wait a minute. No, I don't believe that bit. Well, then why are you trusting it? Why are you going to trust it in your car? Why are you going to trust it in the surgery? Why are you going to trust it with your money, with your children's education? Because the whole idea is that it's going to be filters and flattery all the way, keep you engaged. Now, you Google things, don't you? Everybody Googles things, so you put a question in, and now at the top of the page, what is there in the answers? It's the Google AI answer. Everybody reads that. Oh, that's the truth. That must be the truth. And there's reams and reams of pages underneath it, isn't there? Does anyone now go underneath, go to page 10 or check a few facts out? Most people will just look at the bare AI answer, which is a woke answer, by the way, and they will just believe it. And they'll run their lives on that basis. Few people will go delve deeper. So I don't think the problem with AI is going to be the Terminator coming through the door and machine gunning everybody at the moment. That may come, especially if you're not woke enough. But the problem is, I don't think we can trust it. I really don't. These firms who are making, they're putting billions into AI. Altruism? Altruism, really? Or do you think they want to make a lot of money out of it? Which do you think? So I would say that it's more to do with the money. So with all of these types of problems like woke net zero and AI, there is always a cabal of people. Ben mentioned it, didn't he? A cabal of people behind it. And they're not that big, but they're very powerful and very, very, very rich, very wealthy people, very influential. And one of the things that it's all based on is detaching us from our country and from our fellow Brits or whatever, whether if you're America, your fellow Yanks or whatever. And we have a problem in the country now, and that's the inability to define ourselves. We're not allowed to define ourselves as anything but tolerant internationalists. Everyone's welcome. That's what we're meant to define ourselves as. We cannot say, no, we are who we are. And that's the reason that I and a few like-minded people got together, and you'll find on your seats a little card called the Pledge, which has been circulating. And on that, there is, it's backed up by a website with a few statements on it. And I'll just read the bit at the top. Our vision is to return power to the British people in order to defend our freedom, our family, our faith, and our home. Our pledge is to stand for freedom, equality under the law, real democracy, and family. Build a peaceful, prosperous, and patriotic society, reclaim our nation's identity, its Christian traditions, culture, and values. Give courage and hope to the British people, and resist tyranny. So if you do believe in those statements, then please consider going on the site and signing up to the pledge. And I will tell you that I was at the signing ceremony when we first opened this. Ben came and he signed the pledge, along with, I think, Peter Whittle was there, and Andrew Bridgen. So, you know, you'll be in good company if you sign the pledge. And it's not tying you into anything. You don't have to give me £10,000 or anything like that. You can just look at it, read it. If you think, yeah, I can go along with that, then that would be good. Now, one thing I will add, because a couple of people have been asking about him, is Tommy Robinson. I've actually been to see him in jail, and I did a video on that. Although it's quite funny because my real name isn't Jeff. That's a long story. That's a Google thing from years ago. But I just put my real name in, my real address, and turned up, and they didn't make me sign an NDA. So there was me. Hello. I didn't have to sign an NDA, but because I want to go and see him again, I did abide by it as if I'd written it. So I did talk around it, and I filled some gaps in with what other people had said by not actually saying it. It was me sort of that came out with it. So because he does need our support, and I'm a great believer in that. He is not perfect by any means. We all know that, don't we? He's a flawed person. But I met him, and when he talks about other people. He talks about what he wants to do for the country, and his next film could be pretty explosive. So I'm just really hoping that he does get out soon. Now, what I did was I read the last judgment that was made at the court, because I went to the court, the last two cases he was involved in. And I read the report, and in there it said that when he gets out, when he's let free, he's not under license. So he can't be recalled to prison, even though he's still got 9 months of his sentence to go when he is released on July the 26th. Okay, so he's not on license, but it did say that if he did breach the injunction, the original injunction, which is why he's inside, he can be rearrested, basically. So I pointed that out. I put that out everywhere I could, and there is sort of movement on this, and a lot of his mates are saying, come on, time for you you've done your job, you've done your bit, you've made your point. Over nearly 170 million views that video's had. He doesn't need to stay inside anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, he needs to purge his contempt, which is what he can do, and he could be out within a month or two. He could be out earlier. And as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what he should do. But it's not my decision. I can say it, but it isn't my decision. It's his decision. And I'm hoping that he does, and then we'll have a big party, and he can go off and recover, because he's lost a bit of weight, a lot of weight, in fact. He's a monstrous great beard. I'm an ex-sailor. I should have the beard. I've got a tash instead. But he's got a monstrous great beard, and his hair's all sort of unkempt and up here like this. So, yeah, and he's got a few more wrinkles and all the rest of it than he did have before. And other people have mentioned that as well. So it's not new news. And I've had a couple, because I don't know whether you know, there's an email system you can use to send him emails. It's called emates, or email a prisoner. It comes under the name emates. It costs you a few pence to send it, because it gets routed directly through to the prison, okay, through their system. So you can do that. You can send him an email through emates, and he needs the input. He needs people. Trouble is, I've had a couple that have been bounced back at me, because they seem to like doing that in Wood Hill Prison, Oh, we'll just give him a hard time. In fact, it was his birthday earlier in the year, and loads of people sent him cards. There's a massive backlog. They can't get them to him fast enough because they have to check every single one. Because don't know whether you know, you can transfer. Not, you don't ask why I know, but I know. No, you can actually impregnate paper with drugs. And if you send it in, people can actually smoke the postcard. So that's why they do it. That's why they do this sort of stuff. They check physical parcels, physical letters, and all that sort of thing. So that's why they do it, because he is in a top security prison. When I went through the door, it was like, I was wondering whether I'd ever get out. Dogs yapping in the background as well. And because I went with Andrew Bridgen and Momus. Do you know Momus Najmi? He's another YouTuber. Yeah, I went with him. So the three of us together. And we eventually got through to the point where they search you thoroughly, shoes off and all the rest of it. 3 blokes, 2 female officers searching us. And I thought, 5 blokes over there, but you've picked the 2 female officers to search us. And I thought, you're wanting one of us to kick off, aren't you? And Andrew Bridgen said, looked round at me and said, I'm coming back here again, he said. Oh dear, he's a waggy. As Andrew Bridgen's a bit of a laugh. Yeah, he's full of it. Anyway, enough from me on all that, because I know we're stuffed for time, but it's great. It's more important that we listen to Ben other than me wittering on, so it was great. And thank you very much. And for people who do watch me on YouTube at Jeff Taylor, really nice, and thank you very much.